Hey folks, welcome back for a build that I have been sleeping on for quite a while, as it turns out. As you can see, we have that classic Mantis decoy combo. If you read the in plain sight talent, it is very obvious that the devs wanted you to use the Mantis with the decoy. But on top of that, today we're going with the hotshot gear set and the chain killer chest piece for the ultimate headshot hunting decoy refreshing combo. So starting off the top, we've gone with the sharpshooter specialization. We're using a marksman rifle, we're going to be in cover, it just makes sense, and sometimes the default option is not a bad way to go. Specifically, the breath control talent is going to give us plus 15% weapon stability, recoil reduction, and faster reacquisition of targets, which works really well with the Mantis. The one in the head talent gives us plus 15% increased headshot damage with rifles and marksman rifles. And the round after round talent generates 5 marksman rifle and rifle ammunition after 20 seconds in cover, so you could even use this with the ammo directives if you so choose. Starting with the primary weapon, we have the title piece here. It is the Mantis Exotic Marksman Rifle. It is honestly one that I didn't use enough when it first came out because I was not a huge marksman rifle user. And as I said off the top, I've been sleeping on the decoy as a skill for quite a while, so I want to get this build out there, so hopefully you don't do the same. The Mantis has the in plain sight talent, which, as you can read there, centers around using the decoy to make sure that enemies are not focused on you. So this build is obviously great in a group, but on top of that, using the decoy means that you are shifting enemy focus away from you and therefore amplifying the damage you deal to those targets. For our secondary weapon, you can go with a number of options. I've gone with the mop here for the plus 10% armor on kill, and more generically gone with a shotgun for some of those more close-up encounters. Alternatively, you could go any number of directions here. Again, this build really revolves around the Mantis, so your secondary weapon is much more of a preferential pick. As is your sidearm, I have gone with the Orbit for the perfect finisher talent, which when you kill an enemy does buff your crit hit chance and crit hit damage. For this build, we're looking at using that crit hit chance more than anything, as increasing your critical hit chance does increase your chances of getting a critical headshot. But again, similar to the secondary weapon, the sidearm here is much more of a preferential pick if you have something else that you would prefer to go with. The Mantis is really the only crucial weapon for this build. For our mask, we have our first piece of hotshot gear. And as I typically do, we'll go ahead and run through all 4-piece bonuses here, and then breeze through the gear pieces on the rest of the way down. At plus 2 pieces, you get 30% marksman rifle damage and 30% weapon handling, both of which obviously pair really well with the Mantis, which is a much more quick-firing marksman rifle. At 3 pieces, you get your plus 30% headshot damage. Again, it's a marksman rifle build, you're going to be looking for headshots primarily. And on top of that, even more so with the Mantis, where you're trying to get those headshot kills to refresh the decoy skill, and also to proc the headache talent, which is the 4-piece bonus for the hotshot gear set. If you'd like, you can pause this video and read it for yourself, but the basic premise is your first headshot gives you increased headshot damage, your second gives you either armor or bonus armor, and the third consecutive headshot will refill the magazine. And then from the 4th consecutive headshot on, you get all 3 bonuses every time you get a headshot kill, and missing a headshot resets this cycle, so you definitely want to be a bit more conservative with your headshots. You'll see in the video later on, when you miss consecutive headshots, you're going to have to reset that cycle and start all over again. Certainly not the end of the world, but it's definitely something you want to try to avoid doing if you can. This is part of where that decoy skill comes in clutch. You can use it to take attention away from you, giving you a nice quiet space to line up those headshots and take down the enemies. And again, as you'll see later, once you've paired Headache with Perfect Headhunter, you've got enough damage to take down absolutely any enemy, including named enemies, even on heroic difficulty. So this really is a great build to use, especially if you're like me and not particularly good at marksman rifle usage. The Mantis is a very user-friendly marksman rifle to go with. And then on every single piece of hotshot gear, we've gone with a core of weapon damage, an attribute of headshot damage, and where possible, we have headshot damage in the mod slot. So for our backpack, we have our second piece of hotshot gear, and we have gone with the backpack and the backpack talent Blessed, which allows you to miss a headshot before resetting that cycle. So that 4 headshot cycle that we talked about previously, now you can miss a headshot and still be able to continue that cycle. So it takes 2 consecutive headshots to reset the cycle now instead of just 1. Again, if you're like me and you miss those headshots occasionally, Blessed is a great talent to add on so that you don't have to reset the cycle all the time. And here we have Chain Killer. It is the named Walker Harrison Co. chest piece. It comes with a native core of weapon damage. We've rolled headshot damage and weapon handling here in the secondary attribute slots. And then of course we have headshot damage in the mod slot. But the main party piece here is the Perfect Headhunter talent. After killing an enemy with a headshot, your next weapon hit within 30 seconds deals an additional 150% of that killing blow's damage. But if you don't have Chain Killer, it's something to keep an eye out for, but you can run this build without it. Just get your regular Walker Harris or Araldi holdings and slap Headhunter on there. And again, one of the reasons I do really love this build is because it just works so well together between Hotshot and Perfect Headhunter. And the Mantis itself. You're going to be looking for headshots all day, all night long. And as long as you keep hitting them, this is an incredibly powerful build, and the Mantis makes it so much easier to use. For the gloves, we have our third piece of Hotshot gear that unlocks the headshot damage bonus. And again, we have weapon damage and headshot damage rolled in the primary and secondary attribute slots. And then in the holster, we have our fourth piece of Hotshot gear, unlocking the Headache talent with some additional weapon damage and headshot damage in that secondary attribute slot. And then here we have Sawyer's knee pads. These days I find myself putting these on any build where I'm going to be stationary and approaching from long range. So obviously that works particularly well with a marksman rifle build like this one. The stand your ground talent is just so great with a marksman rifle build where you're not going to be running around as often. You can stay stationary, build those stacks, increase your total weapon damage, which again feeds really well into the Perfect Headhunter talent where your damage is capped based on your total weapon damage. So when you're stationary, you get an additional 30% total weapon damage, which in turn increases your total weapon damage cap at the peak of Perfect Headhunter. And on top of that, since the retooling of this talent, your stacks remain until 10 seconds after moving. So if you do have to move from cover to cover to line up a shot, you can absolutely do that and then rebuild those stacks by staying stationary again and just rinse and repeat until everybody's laying down on the field. And for our talents here, we'll actually go in reverse order. That was just my preference on which bumper I wanted them mapped to. But we've got the Holographic Distraction Decoy, known as the Decoy, and the Reviver Hive. So again, first up is the most important one, that is the Distraction Decoy. As you can see, we have a tier 0 decoy here, so it's not the most effective that it possibly can be, but it is certainly still fantastic to use. Even when you're running solo, this decoy can still draw attention away from you and onto the decoy, allowing you to line up shots with the Mantis and take full advantage of the in plain sight talent. Every time you get a headshot kill, you're going to reset the cooldown of the decoy skill, and this bonus does actually wait until the decoy goes on cooldown, which is really fantastic. So even if the decoy is already deployed and you get a headshot kill, that bonus will then wait until the decoy goes on cooldown. It will then refresh the cooldown and you have the decoy immediately active for use again. You'll see that in action in the video later. But suffice to say, if you're running this build correctly, you will rarely have to wait for the decoy to cool down, giving you a fantastic way to draw attention away from you and onto your decoy. And then for our second skill here, we have the Reviver Hive. Again, this is another tier 0 skill that works really well, especially when running solo. You've got one charge to revive you when you go down. But again, I will say, this is certainly somewhere you could go a different direction if you want a different skill. The decoy is the primary skill. The decoy and Mantis pairing is the crux of this build. So if you're confident in your abilities and you don't go down, feel free to go with a different skill, but I have gone with the Reviver Hive here to give you that second chance if you do happen to get downed and you don't have any allies in the area to help you out. But as I said, the main focus of this build is the Mantis Marksman Rifle. It is the decoy skill, Perfect Headhunter on Chain Killer, and the Headache talent from the Hotshot gear set, all combined with the Stand Your Ground talent to give you a fantastic amount of marksman rifle and headshot damage to use on your enemies when they are too busy going after your decoy. So as always, give this one a try. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like this video if you liked it, and please subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this and help support our channel and continue to help it grow. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.
Watch my ass. I'm gonna pin this fucker in.
You gotta help me. Reinforcements en route.
Got you now. Shit, he's down. You down. They're coming around us. Right where I want.
Firefly detected. Hostile blinder firefly detected. Rogue sniper turret detected. Hostile sniper turret detected. System restored. System reactivated. Medical assistance needed.
I'm here for you! Get away from me! They're moving my way! Someone watch me while I reload!
Firefly detected. Hostile blinder firefly detected.
Don't have a shot.
System malfunctioning. eliminated.
Watch yourself!
Supply room access unlocked.